Can I put the computer where your drink is?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll spare it. All right, I should pointing it at him right now, but when the briefing starts, could you point it at this table right in front of you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Is there an outlet by you? My computer's fully charged, so it should be fine. But
Just in case. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. No, that should be fine. Yeah, my computer's fully charged, I think.
I like it.
Yeah.
So is there anything I need to do?
Yeah, it's at 100% and on low power mode.
I think we're ready. I'm out. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Some of us have been here before, and this is a room that brings back cool memories. Nice to be back inside. Thank you all for coming this morning. I know some of you had to make a drive. This is just kind of to test things out and see how it goes. If we decide to stay here a little bit more often, decorate the room a little nicer, and do a couple things. There is coffee and tea made over there. If you'd like to get yourself something hot to drink, please feel free to get up and do that. We have a pretty full agenda today, too. We need to make sure that we dismiss time for everybody to get over to session at 11. So I'm going to stop talking. And we have a budget outlook for Baltimore County today from the Office of Policy Analysis. No, something. I'll let you do that, Hiram. I'd like to introduce Hiram Birch to give us a presentation, and we'll allow for some questions afterwards. Thank you, everyone. Let's go.
Okay. Good morning, delegation members. Good morning, Speaker. So today we're going to present two reports very briefly, just cover the highlights. One is our County Revenue Outlook Report, which looks at county revenues and FY25, gives you a snapshot of the fiscal picture confronting Baltimore County and the current fiscal year. And Valerie Monroe is going to give you a highlight on that. And then to follow, Ms. Arnold Anja is going to give you an update on the state aid and the FY26 budget. And I'm going to give you some highlights on the proposed reductions in the governor's budget plan. So I'll turn it over to Valerie.
Thank you, Hiram. Thank you. Good morning again to the Baltimore County Delegation. Good morning, Madam Speaker, and to the Deputy Speaker. So the County Revenue Outlook Report provides a snapshot of the fiscal health of county governments in Maryland. The revenue estimates are for fiscal 23 through 25 and are obtained primarily from each county government's adopted budget for the current fiscal year. In today's briefing, we're going to focus only on the property and income taxes. So if you turn to page 13, that's of the County Revenue Outlook Report, this shows the two main factors. Yes. So I'm on page 13 of that report. So this shows the two main factors that affect county property tax revenues, and that is the assessable base and county tax rates. If you look at the first map, you will see that Baltimore County is in the mid-range for a per capita assessable base. The second map on page 13 and the exhibit on page 15 shows that Baltimore County is in the upper mid-range in terms of local property tax rates at $1.10 per 100 of assessed value. If you turn to page 15, this shows that Baltimore County has a per capita property tax revenue of $14.20 and is ranked 15 in the state. If you can turn with me to page 16 now, this page shows that Baltimore County is projected to collect $1.2 billion in property tax revenues in fiscal 25, which represents a $98.2 million increase over the 2-year tax period. Baltimore County is anticipating a 4.4 average annual increase in property tax revenues over the 2-year period, which is lower than the statewide average of 5.2%. We will now shift our focus to local income taxes on page 17. And local income taxes are influenced by net taxable income and county tax rates. The first map on page 17 shows that Baltimore County is in the mid-range for per capita net taxable income. The second map on page 17 reflects the income tax rates for each county. Currently, 15 jurisdictions, including Baltimore County, impose the maximum local income tax rate of 3.2%. And you can see this detail on page 19. So if you can turn with me to page 19, you will see that Baltimore County's local income tax revenues average $1,200 per capita, which compares to the statewide average of $1,245 per capita. And finally, if you turn with me to page 20, this shows that Baltimore County is expecting a decrease in income tax revenues for fiscal 25. Fiscal 25 income tax revenue is estimated at $1 billion, a decrease of $61.5 million, or an average annual decrease of 2.9% over the 2-year period. And this compares to a 0.3% decrease statewide. It is also important to note that Baltimore County has a significant increase in their income tax revenue in 2023 of $1.1 billion. So the estimate in 2025 kind of brings the county back to what they historically received in 2023. So I thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Arnold, and he will present on the state aid allocations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Arnold, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Speaker Jones. Good morning. I will turn your attention to the state aid overview report. And I will be, yes, that one. I will be giving a high-level presentation of the state aid to Baltimore County, and then I will turn it over to Hiram, who will go over the governor's proposed reductions and their impact on Baltimore County. So if you will turn to page 4. So you can see that Baltimore County will receive around $1.3 billion. Of this amount, $1.1 billion is direct aid. An additional $132.3 million is provided for retirement payments. Page 7.
Sorry, we are going really fast. I'm so sorry. Can you slow down?
Okay. So starting again on page 4, you can see that Baltimore County will receive around $1.3 billion. And of this amount, $1.1 billion is direct aid, and an additional $132.3 million is provided for retirement payments. Page 7 breaks out state aid by unit of local government. As you can see, the vast majority of state aid is targeted to the public school system, which receives $1 billion, which is around 89% of the total state aid provided to Baltimore County. Page 10 shows that state aid to Baltimore County increases by 6.4%, and this is above the statewide average of 5.6%. And this results in an additional $76.7 million in state support to Baltimore County. Now we're going to shift our focus to some of the key components of the state aid to the county government. If you could please turn to page 23. Baltimore County will receive $12.7 million in funding under the existing police aid formula. The majority of state funding under this program is based on population density, by which urban jurisdictions with a high population density receive a higher per capita amount. As you can see, over 76% of the county's funding comes from the population density component. Page 24 shows you that Baltimore County will receive an additional $6.1 million under the Police Aid Enhancement Program, which provides funding based on the number of violent crime offenses occurring within each jurisdiction. And this is the fourth year that the budget has included funding for this purpose. Now moving to transportation aid on page 32. This page shows you the funding trend under the local highway user revenue program. As you can see, the county will receive $15.5 million in fiscal 2026. Now, move back to page 30. I would like to note that in fiscal 2028, funding under the program, which is allocated based on the local share of the gasoline and motor vehicle revenue account revenues, will revert back to the level provided in fiscal 2024. Instead of receiving 20% of GMVRA revenues, beginning in fiscal 2028, local governments will be receiving 15.6% of those revenues. Now we will shift our focus to education aid on page 41. And as mentioned earlier, the majority of state aid is provided to the Baltimore County public school system. As you can see on page 41, the public school system will receive $1.1 billion, which includes both direct aid and teachers' retirement payments. On a per pupil basis, Baltimore County is ranked 11th, slightly below the statewide average. Page 42 breaks down the funding for direct aid and teachers' retirement payments. The majority of the direct aid is targeted to at-risk students and also based on local wealth. And as you can see, jurisdictions with a lower tax base receive a considerable amount of state support on a per pupil basis compared to some of the more affluent jurisdictions. Funding for teachers' retirement payments is based on the retirement cost and the salary base of the local school system, not on local wealth. On page 43, you can see that Baltimore County experiences the third highest growth in per pupil direct aid in the state at 7.8% compared to the statewide average of 6.1%. Page 44 shows you why the county will receive a higher increase than the state average. And this is primarily due to the local wealth per pupil. As you can see, the local tax base grew below the state average at 2.8% compared to 3.9% statewide. Page 46 shows you funding under the Blueprint initiatives. Baltimore County will receive $74 million, and funding is primarily targeted to schools with a high concentration of poverty. And as you can see, the county will receive an important amount of funding under the concentration of poverty component at $51.1 million. Page 47 shows you funding that's provided to the three at-risk populations. Around $3 billion is provided for these efforts. The county will receive $340.9 million, and on a per pupil basis, it ranks 10th in the state. Now moving to student enrollment, page 56 provides insight into the student enrollment growth. The county will experience a 0.4% decrease in student enrollment compared to a 0.1% decrease statewide. Page 57 shows you the students eligible for free and reduced price meals. And what is salient here is that over half of the students statewide are eligible for free and reduced price meals. In Baltimore County, 55% of students are eligible for free and reduced price meals. Page 58 shows you the students identified as English language learners. As you can see, the county is ranked 6th in terms of the share of students requiring language services. Page 59 provides information on the students receiving special education services. And as you can see, the county ranks 7th, slightly above the state average. I will turn it over to Hiram. Oh, and we also provided a sheet that provides the state aid by different programs on over a two-year period. And I will now turn it over to Hiram, who will provide more detail on the governor's proposed reductions.
Good morning. If you can turn to page 11 in the same document, it kind of gives you a breakdown of the proposed reductions to local funding that's included in the governor's budget plan. What's important to note is all of the state aid figures that we have presented to you this morning have already accounted for these reductions. So what the amount of state aid that Arnold indicated that you will receive has already been adjusted for. So anyway, so turn to page 11, it breaks down the different funding areas that has been proposed to be reduced. And in total, it's around $262.5 million. Of this funding, public school funding will be reduced by $243 million. Funding to the county community college system is $4.8 million, and funding to county governments is around $14.8 million. So just look at the public school funding piece, around $122.4 million is reduced due to the postponement of the collaborative learning initiative that was a part of the current plan. That proposal is included in the governor's education administration bill that we'll be having a hearing on next Wednesday. In addition, there is a $25 million reduction in non-public placements. Here is a county state cost shift in which the county government or the local school systems will be required to pick up this additional $25 million in cost. In addition, there is a $92.9 million reduction in retirement payments. Both here and in the community college funding area, $4.8 million, the county governments will be required to pick up these costs. Currently, these costs are covered by the state under the governor's budget plans. These costs will have to be picked up by the county government. So if you turn to page 12, it kind of shows you on a county by county basis of the additional impact of the state aid of $262.5 million. The reduced amount for Baltimore County is around $30.8 million. In addition to the reduction in state aid, the governor is proposing that county governments pick up a greater share of property assessment costs. Currently, these costs at SDAT are shared 50-50 by the state and by county governments. Under the governor's proposal, the county governments will pick up 90% of the cost and the state will cover 10%. The impact of Baltimore County is $2.7 million. These are additional costs that the county government will have to pay the state each year. When you look at the total impact, the state local cost shift is around $17.9 million. So that is the amount of money that either the county government or the local school system will have to pick up. And if you turn to page 14, it kind of breaks it down on who will be responsible for these costs. The total cost shift for Baltimore County is $17.9 million. The county government will be responsible for picking up the $9.5 million in teachers' retirement and around $900,000 under the community college system. They will also be required to pick up $2.7 million in property assessment costs. The local school system will have to pick up the additional $4.8 million in non-public placement cost. So in total, the impact to both the county government and the school system is around $17.9 million. Most of these costs will be incurred by the county government. It's around $13.1 million will be the county government. their additional piece, and the school system's additional piece is 4.8. So let's just backtrack a little to Arnold's presentation. If you look on page 9, you will see that Baltimore County state aid is basically only going up slightly. So for this year, their state aid amount for the county government is not really going up, but their cost will be going up by $13+ million. So Baltimore County government will be kind of hit pretty strong under the governor's budget plan. You can see that the school system's funding, direct funding, is going up by $69.4 million. So their additional cost of $4.8 million can be absorbed by the additional state aid that they are receiving. But you cannot say that for the county government. The county government will get a direct hit from this budget plan. But once again, this is his plan. It has to be approved by the General Assembly. So it's just his proposal. The General Assembly has the final say over what gets adopted in the state budget. But this is basically the plan as it sets right now. And the last piece of information is that I know we went over a lot of information, but we have produced a reference guide that kind of shows you all of the different resources that we have on our website. We have a lot of information under our local government overview report that includes information on per pupil funding for public schools. And we have updated the information recently to include per pupil federal funding. So there's a lot of resources here. We are more than willing to reach out to anyone, stop by your office if you have in-depth information, and we'd be more than willing to walk you through any of the information that we have, and also any information that you may want from our 2 presentation reports that we presented this morning. I know it was kind of quick, and we kind of touched on the highlights, but we just wanted to get the information out to you. So that's.
Thank you. And it's important to point out there's a lot of information here, and these are highlights to show you kind of where things are. Many of us like to drill down, and then if there's something that is something that was not highlighted that we noticed, you would be more than happy, I know, to help us out with that. We certainly do appreciate that you're here today to do that. And I want to just reiterate, you say that these figures are predicted based on if the governor's budget, as it were more or less accepted at this point.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. We're open for questions. If anybody would like to ask a question, first I'll go to the vice chair.
Okay, good morning and thank you. I first want to know the name and the phone number of the person with whom we can speak to sort of knock some of these numbers out and to ask some very specific questions, because I really do have some very specific questions that I have asked the analyst. I wish I could say who it was, who came to judiciary as well as Chair Barnes, particularly about the collaborative amount, which collaborative learning amount, which is one of the largest pieces under that education cut. And knowing because I sat on the funding for Kerwin, I get a lot of questions from superintendents and different folks about just what you're looking at. I would like to know just how that amount is really broken down, because we're having a very difficult time understanding that amount and from where it's really coming, because we know that collaborative learning would not actually in and of itself, because it's something we've always had, amass that amount of money. So what is that amount really attached to? I would really like you to speak to someone and walk through that. So can you give me the name and the number or send it to me?
Yeah, we'll send it to your office. We're in a process right now preparing a fiscal note to the administration bill that deals with the collaborative learning provision. So we definitely will have more information by next week. But we'll definitely reach out to your office to go over that.
And for any information that's requested by the delegation, you can send it to John Sanick, who is the one you communicated with to set up this meeting, and then he will routinely share it with everyone in the delegation. That will save us from having some people get information You can say what's requested by the vice chair, and we can send it around, but
That'd be perfect.
he's your best conduit there.
And with that, the mental health component that is attached to community schools, because that's going down as we, or the budget, amends the state budget, but looking at Medicaid and the amount of money for the same thing, is going up. And I would just really like to have that conversation with someone, because that's a disconnect in terms of how the services really will reach children. And that is something that no matter what it is you send to the office, you can't articulate through a piece of paper. So I really do need to
Right.
talk to someone.
Yeah, we definitely will reach out to your office, reach out to you, and discuss this.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Card.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I apologize for coming in a little bit late. One quick specific question and one more general question. The first one is on page 12. It looks like, I'm just looking at Baltimore, not at the whole state, but it looks like there's a reduction of like, the total fiscal impact is 33.5 million, but the only half of that or so is a shift. Where's the other half going? Is it just a cut?
It's just a cut. So
Straight
that's a cut from the state. That means most of that is for the collaborative learning. That means that amount of state funds will not be provided.
And there's no requirement, but there's not a,
And there's no backfill for those funds.
but there's no prohibition against backfilling it. It's
Correct.
just that it's not contemplated in the governor's budget.
Correct.
Okay. The other question is there any contemplation in any of these numbers on federal actions, either from the Department of Education or from just general employment issues with loss of federal employee status?
No, this is based on the budget that was introduced in January.
Okay, thank you.
But just to clarify, when we talk about, on that same page 12, the state local call shift, some of these state aid reductions, which is under the total fiscal impact, which included the state aid reductions and property assessment cost shifts, that's your total impact. But only a portion of those reductions is being shifted to the county government or local school system to backfill. Like some of the state aid reductions for the collaborative learning and for innovative programs are not being backfilled. Those are just plain reductions that the local school systems will not be receiving.
Thank you. Delegate Root.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this information. It's a lot to go through. Could you just, I sort of missed what you said about the highway user revenue, and I think you said they revert back. And can you just really briefly go over what the highway user revenue part of it?
So that is on, I think you turn to page 30. The exhibit will sort of show you that currently local governments receive 20% of the revenue that's the GMVRA revenues. And then in 2018, they will be receiving 15.6, which is what was provided in fiscal 2024.
So what happened was that the General Assembly enhanced funding to local governments under the local highway user revenue program. But that enhanced funding will max out in FY27. Beginning in FY28, you're going to be referred back to what the local governments received in FY24. So unless there's statutory changes, funding under the local highway user revenue program for local governments will significantly decrease beginning in FY28.
Thank you. One more question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
On a related topic, is lots funding in here somewhere? Local oriented transit.
That I don't think is.
Okay. Thank you.
Delegate Mandari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. given the significant fiscal impact of this budget, what specific strategies do our government, county government has to implement to close this financial gap, whatever we can, while maintaining essential services and avoiding severe cuts to critical programs? That's number one question. Number two is, I'm looking on page 40. I understand we don't have a casinos in our county. However, how this is allocated, we don't have any money there. Gaming impact,
Right, the gaming impact aid grants are for jurisdictions where there is a casino located. And so Howard County does get a certain amount, like $89,000 for some provision in the state law. But basically, the local impact aid grants are based on a share of the revenues that are generated by those casinos in that local jurisdiction. It's basically to help offset the cost to have the casinos in those jurisdictions. So.
And any strategy, any plan of our county government to
That is
close
based
this?
on,
Not the gaming, the
Oh.
overall.
that is a strategy that the county government needs to work out with the county council. We don't typically recommend local governments on how to fund we provide information on your tax rates and how you compare to other jurisdictions, but each jurisdiction needs to decide how they want to fund public services. Like, for example, we go to the County Revenue Outlook Report, you see one jurisdiction, Talbot County on the Eastern Shore. This is a fairly affluent jurisdiction. They have decided to fund their public schools by raising their local property tax. So in the last 5 years, the property tax rate in Talbot County has gone up by 15 cents. Okay, however, they have kept their local income tax rate at a fairly lower level. So they have decided to increase funding for their government through the property tax, not through the income tax. So each jurisdiction is unique based on their tax base, on how they want to solve their problems. So that's basically is a local decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Delia Schlega.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the County Revenue Outlook presentation, page 20, local income tax trends. Do you have any idea why we're, it's declining so
Right.
much? That's a huge problem.
Right, so what has happened here is this, unfortunately, our trend started in FY '23. We probably should have backed it out going further out. One second. What has happened is that Baltimore County, along with some of the more affluent jurisdictions, had significant increases in their local income tax. In their local income tax collections in FY '23. That was a very high mark. In FY '22, Baltimore County collected below $1 billion. It was around $994.8 million. In FY '23, they collected almost $1.1 billion. It was like an $85 million increase in that year and an 8.5% increase in that year. So you also had fairly strong collections in '24. I think many counties, including Howard, Montgomery, other jurisdictions, particularly who receive a lot of capital gains, are rebasing their estimates for FY '25 to reflect that. So it's not really, it's kind of like, yeah, your revenues are declining, but it's declining from a much higher collection amount in '23 due to maybe capital gains or a very high increase in your net taxable income. Your '25 numbers are more in line to what you have collected in '22. So I just think it's kind of a rebase year in your local income tax. And your '25 number is an estimate. So most counties really tend to be more conservative on their estimates. You don't want to be very aggressive on your estimates.
Could it be related to us losing population? I mean, if you're losing population, you would be losing tax base, right? I mean, usually, but not always.
We need to probably contact the county government to kind of see what their estimate is based on. But we do notice that '23 and '24 are very good years for some of the more affluent jurisdictions. I know Baltimore County tends to benefit from capital gains like Talbot and Montgomery. So I think that's just 23 was a very high marked year, and that other jurisdictions are rebasing. And you can see that, and if you go back to page 20, you can see that Montgomery County is also expecting a significant decrease from their 23 high mark. So you see that in like Talbot County, which is a significant decrease from 52 million down to 37 million. You see that in Montgomery County, a 2.1 billion down to 2.0. So I think some of the jurisdictions that had the benefits from capital gains are kind of rebasing their 25 estimates.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't see any other question. Oh, yes, Delegate Naraki. You always do that. You do it online too. You're very good at that. It's good to know you can do it in person.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I suspect you're not going to be able to give me this right now, but obviously we have the percent that we're per pupil that we're from state aid in this document. I'd like to know the total spending per pupil. So not only with state aid, with the county spending, and with federal dollars. Could you get us that number of what the total amount?
That information is actually on our website currently.
Okay.
The federal numbers are up to FY23. We do have numbers for FY25 in our local government overview report. It will be under the 2025 report. If you click on public school funding, you should have a series of exhibits. We have FY25 numbers that show both state aid and the local appropriation. We also have charts that shows a combined federal, state, and local that's based on FY23, because with our federal funds, we are using audited numbers, and 23 is the most recent federal audited numbers to make sure that the reporting is consistent across local school systems. That's one of the issues with the federal funds. School systems report their federal funds slightly different. Some school systems report them when they receive them, some report them when they spend them. And one of the issues with the federal funds that has been provided over the COVID period is the federal government gave local school systems multiple years in which to use their federal funds. So some school systems use them all in 1 year, some multiple years. So that's why we use audited reports for the federal funds, so we can report the numbers when they actually spent the money, not when they actually received it.
Okay. Do you have a rough sense of what that number is, the total per pupil?
No.
So it's in this document somewhere that I can find it?
It's on our website. So if you go to the Department of Legislative Services website,
Okay.
And we can have those PDF charts emailed to your office.
Mr. Chair, would that be okay to send to the delegation?
Again, okay, so that's another one that if you could send that to John, and he will make sure that as quickly as he gets it, that everybody in the delegation gets it. We send it, and by the way, you all understand, we send it to your public account as well as your personal email, because public accounts get a little jammy sometimes, so it helps out. I think you're done. I think you've answered the questions, and I really appreciate you all coming. You have the rare, after 3 years of never being in this room, you have the rare pleasure of helping us to christen it back. Thank you so much. We're gonna move to our business now. I will point out that I appreciate Delegate Ruth and Delegate Metzger, as they say in the game, breaking hearts and going over and getting a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. That's all we've got. I warned you last week, but there are there, and please feel free to walk over and get some. We're going to go to voting first today because we have a lot of bills to hear, and I want to be sure we get through votes on several bills right off the top. So we're going to start off with our voting calendar, and we're going to do them in order. And so the first bill that we will bring forward for a vote is House Bill 528, vehicle laws, private roadways, and residential subdivisions and committees. Terry, would you just give us a quick summary of that bill, and then we'll move. Never mind.
Okay, no, that's
I
fine.
could probably.
I can do it.
We can let the sponsor do it. How's that?
I have it right here.
Okay, go.
So this bill allows a police officer to enforce all the provisions of the Maryland vehicle law on private roadways in the county that are located within residential subdivisions or communities and used for vehicular traffic by residents of those subdivisions or communities. It also prohibits drivers from violating the Maryland vehicle law while driving on those private roadways. There is an amendment.
Yep. And and I really should have gone to you for description, sorry. That's probably more the procedure to go to the committee.
Charity is
Chair.
much more charitable.
I know.
Much more charitable.
Charitable, clever. I'm sure she's never heard that one before.
I'm sure she has.
All right, so, report from the Public Safety Subcommittee.
Yes, the Public Safety Committee voted unanimously on the amendment as well as on the bill, favorably. The amendment simply makes the pilot program in one particular subdivision known as Queen Anne's in District 11B in the sponsor's district, and so that the county, which very much favors the bill with the amendment, can then look and see if this works and then make a recommendation for the following.
Have a sunset also, I think.
Is that sunset?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Okay. So, I'm gonna make a motion on behalf.
Motion on the amendment.
Second. A motion and second on the amendment. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. Everyone in favor of the amendment on this bill, please raise your hands.
Said
voice.
voice.
Good to know you're listening. Should we do, I'm used to doing it on screen, so you're right, let's do it again. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the amendment carries. We have a motion on the bill.
Move favorable on the bill.
Second. And properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hand up, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll send that one to the committee with the proper documentation. Next, we have House Bill 562. This is it's going to be a beautiful bipartisan bill. Right now, it's partisan. The Republican Party, and I'll go to the chair of public safety. Couldn't figure out where to send this one. It's a public safety, it's the best we could do.
We want to make sure that all of our elections are safe. So
Yes,
public safety.
right, exactly.
The amendment, there was an amendment to the bill. The amendment passed unanimously by the subcommittee. The amendment includes issues for on the Democratic elections to make sure that the present practice is codified in law. The present practice of how we handle our Democratic elections. I would move the amendment.
Yeah, and I'll thank Delegate Schley for pointing out that it's in law. When I went and looked, I was like, oh my, we need to fix something on our side too.
Why it's in law, we don't know, but if it's in law, we should make sure we're following.
And just for any, we did do this research, just in case you're curious, there's a disclaimer at the beginning of the entire section on central committees that says, if what the central committee doing has this, if the party has constitution that is in conflict with the law, the party's constitution supersedes the law. So our last election was run under party, the Democratic Central Committee was elected under those party rules and is fully legitimate, okay? But we thought it'd be nice to have the law match too. So that's what the amendment is.
I'll move the amendment.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. All in favor of the amendment to House Bill 562, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Okay, now on the bill.
The bill passed unanimously out of the subcommittee.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. We changed the title, right?
Yes, the amendment changes the title.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. The Republicans changing our party. Thank you very much. Any other discussion on the bill as amended? All in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. Next, we have House Bill 746. This is an alcoholic beverages bill. So this goes to the Alcohol Subcommittee, which has been ably substituted for with our Vice Chair, Delegate Pastor. The committee, please. Yes.
House Bill 746, brought to us by Delegate Guyton, was voted on unanimously.
No amendment, correct?
No amendment.
Okay.
Move favorable.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the bill carries. We'll send that along to committee. Next, we have House Bill 770, alcoholic beverages sale or delivery off premises consumption. Again, we go to the chair of the alcohol subcommittee.
Give the secretary now 1 moment.
You can relax, little John's also doing it behind you.
Okay, that's so good to know. All right, House Bill 770, brought to us by Delegate Shalega, was voted on favorably unanimously by the committee.
This one has an amendment, I think.
Do you have?
Yes, remember we took delivery out.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
No, so you want to just quickly say?
Yeah, the bill's simple. It allows restaurants that currently have off-premises sale, for instance, you can go to a restaurant today and pick up a handle of vodka or a six-pack of beer, but you cannot take a cocktail to go. So we're saying take down lid, exactly what we did in COVID. We're just letting them continue that practice. We took delivery out. Charity, we changed the title of that one too, right?
Yes.
To take
She's very
delivery out.
good.
So it's simply pick up so the restaurant can card the person and.
Move the amendment.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Now, on the bill.
Here's the bill.
Okay. Second. Thank you. All in favor, any discussion, excuse me. Okay, all in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Last one on our list here. Yep. This is alcoholic beverages, distance from place of worship, an exception. Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. House Bill 987 was passed favorably with an amendment. This was brought to us by Delegate Mangio.
Okay. Delegate Forbes, do you want to say anything about the amendment, or are you comfortable with the way we have it, in the form we have it now?
We worked through it this morning with
Okay.
Charity, thank you so much,
So you-
and with Jack Maloney.
You may have seen several forms of this amendment, but the one that is on the drive is the one we are considering now with some work. Charity came in early this morning, Jack Maloney, I think he's hiding back there in the back, came in early. We made sure that the amendment was technically correct. Delegate Forbes, particular interest in this because this is actually affecting a establishment in her district. So, but, okay, let's see.
Mangio, Delegate.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
Yeah, we
your
worked
bill,
there.
we can go, you can explain the amendment, or Delegate Forbes can if she would like to.
I think Charity might
And
want
if
to.
neither one of them
explain
can,
that.
then we will default to Charity.
How about we, Charity might want to explain it, Delegate Forbes, because
Did it not make it?
Oh, here it is.
Delegate Forbes, would you like
So that's
Charity to
it.
explain?
Yeah, Charity.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So I thought we had the correct amendment up on this.
We do,
drive.
it says final reprint on it.
Okay.
It's under that.
All right, under final reprint is the bill with it reprinted with it embedded in it. And Charity, Delegate Forbes, would you like to talk about what it does?
Well, the amendment was mainly technical, it's just moving it from one subtitle to another. There were a few restrictions added on to the license that weren't in the original bill. Those being, the location is at least 100 feet from a place of worship. There's the number of seats at the bar may not exceed 25% of the total number of seats on the licensed premises. The off-premises consumption privileges were limited to wine only if the wine is purchased along with food and not displayed in an area accessible to the public. And that's about it.
Yes, Delegate Metzger.
Did they get the letter from the church that approves it?
It says, the bill says.
That was in the bill.
The bill said that the church has to write an approval. And there was a question raised in the subcommittee as to who do they submit it to. It was pretty clear that it would default going to the liquor board for their approval. We didn't, it's not written directly to the bill, where else would it go? We said, basically, it's put out there. To answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Delegate Kite.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to go back in light of the bill that we just passed before this, that said it was okay to take liquor in off premises. How does that interact with these changes made to this bill? Or is this completely exempt from that alone?
I think Jack can speak to that, but I think they'll be allowed to have,
Ms. Rollin, if you'd like to come
have
up.
cocktails.
You can. Or you shake your head, no, I can't make you come up here.
It's not displayed in the public area.
Okay, so they would be limited to wine, I think is the answer.
The license specifies that.
It specifies it in the new license that you get, that would be
Okay.
So get recognized and talk out loud so people can hear the answer. We're,
Yeah,
by the
I
way, I
understand.
don't know if you noticed, we are broadcasting on the YouTube channel. Okay, I don't know if they can hear anything, and if you're out there, thank you.
Charity's the legal brain here, but I guess the new bill would limit it specifically under this particular legislation that says Yeah, I mean, I got, not overrules, but it's specific where you're not allowed to do that, correct?
Okay.
Is that
That's the restriction in the license.
in the license, right?
Yes.
Delegate Phillips.
So I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I believe this is the case. Whatever the restrictions are on the license, no matter what we do here about being able to take out, the license supersedes anything else, right? So they put special restrictions in the license that, no?
I really don't know the answer to that.
Okay. So it's a
I don't
question of
wanna-
precedence, like which
It's a
one?
question of precedence.
Okay,
I have
yeah, Delegate
I don't
Schlegel.
On the cocktails to go, the language says the liquor board will do this. So the liquor board would say this new license is just for one.
They
So
have
we
to
didn't
issue a
just do a
permit.
blanket, open the door, and everybody runs out. We gave the liquor board the
Discretion.
ability to specify and implement what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Clark.
Yes, this happens to impact one particular building right across from the courthouse. I know, are they okay with these amendments?
They are.
Okay, good.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, do we think we need to do a voice vote? I mean,
Move the amendment.
okay.
Second.
Amendments moved and second. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to assume we're all in the same brain on this. All in favor of the amendment to the bill, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and now on the bill as amended. Any further discussion?
Move the bill.
Second.
All right, seeing none, seeing no discussion, I'm going to assume we can do it by voice vote again. All in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. By the way, if I say that, you feel like there's going to be negative votes, just flag me down and we'll do a roll call on it for sure. Okay, that's all the voting business today. Now we have a handful of bills that we're going to hear. We have as many as 6. I get one. I'm going to move to the other seat and let you be the chair because I'm going to have Jack Maloney come up with me for these, please. Don't put it in that thing on the table. Start out.
Okay, thank you, Delegate,
You'll get it.
Eversole.
Yeah, thank you. That's only for roads, okay? That's not- So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'd like to present House Bill.
Excuse me, and thank you, Mr. Malone, for being here with us this morning. Continue.
Thank you. House Bill 1141 allows the Board of License Commissioners in Baltimore County to approve a change of location for alcoholic beverage licenses originally issued to a contract purchaser, an owner on the premises, or developer if the new location is within the same election district and has been in the same location for at least 10 years. I think that he may correct me, but basically this is saying if it has changed ownership, but it's been at the same location for a while, for 10 years, it can still be moved. And I think that's pretty much it. Pretty much. Okay. Again, a lot of these laws have to do with trying to facilitate, because our laws are so restrictive, motions, just like the last bill did. So I would ask for a favorable report. I can't ask for that, but eventually I would like to have a favorable report.
Just Jack Maloney, Baltimore County Licensed Beverage Association. This really was a situation where a license that has been in place since '73. The most current tenant defaulted. The landlord had to take the license back. He wants to sell the property, sell the license, but he actually didn't, no offense to attorneys, he didn't use a liquor attorney, and the attorney put it in the contractor's hold, the developer's hold. So when he had the hearing, the board actually said, we agree, the intent is that that license should move, but they didn't feel comfortable moving it, and they asked us to come down here and fix it. So this is all this is. It's a guy who is trying to recover almost a year's worth of rent.
So,
Thank
you. So the question I had is, I know we've got a situation how would this impact future situations?
Anyone that held it for 10 years. What happens sometimes when these developers, when they plan a project, they acquire some licenses and they hold them. And originally, this was the developer's idea. So we're doing this on behalf of the developer, believe it or not, it's not our bill. But it's fair because the developer has had that license in that location for close to 40-some years. And the latest tenant defaulted. Had they held the license themselves, this wouldn't be an issue. But because they put it into this section, we never contemplated this ever happening. But in fairness to the developer, we said we would certainly support it because it's going to put the license is going right back in the district where it came from. And it's going to be used rather than sit for another 3.5 years.
And are there any restrictions on how large the next facility can be?
Well, this is a regular license that originated in the 8th district. This was the old, my day steak and ale. So it's going to stay in that district somewhere and be used by another restaurant.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, Delegate.
Probably for Mr. Milani. How long can someone just sit on a license? Is there anything in the law? Could you sit on a license for 20 years and not do anything
in
with
the developer's situation, if they have a project and they put it into a site, it can't move until it's open. The place opens for business for over a year and a day, then it's eligible to go back in the district. Other than that, we used to say we let them out at the 5-year mark a few years ago to try to get some of these developers who had projects that looked great, but then when the economy went south, it didn't look so great, so that we gave them a chance to move them. So this is just another example of a one that's been there for 10 years or more. Yeah, this would say anything over 10 years, they can go ahead and move it.
So I guess my question, Mr. Milani, is could I purchase a license today and I could just sit on it for 20 years and not do anything with it?
If it sits in the same development, if it sits, because it's moved to the development, it's moved to only that development. It can't leave. Whatever the development is, when they go ahead and put the permits in, it has to stay in there.
Do we know how many of those kind of licenses exist that are, say, that have been just sitting for 10 years or more, just with not being used?
I would venture to say that it's quite a few on some of the projects, because when COVID hit, I know a lot of projects just stopped dead. Nothing's happened with them. And I think now with the way things are, some of them, I wonder if they will actually move forward. So as long as it's been there 5 years, they can go ahead and put those back into the market.
Thank you.
Delegate Garrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for being here, Jack. I just want to clarify. So what you're saying is the developer then, he does not have to transfer that license to any new business coming into his development. He can sell it to someone outside that development.
Outside, if
Right,
it's
so
been there
when
for
you say-
10 years.
Okay. And then but it has to be in district, the same district.
Same district.
So my question again is similar to my question with the other bill. We have a lot of liquor laws here that may contradict one another. So we just passed the other bill or extended the sunset that said you could move from one district to another district, right? Does this bill supersede that, or does the one we just passed supersede this
No,
one?
this bill has to stay in the 8th election district. The bill that you passed was the transfer out of the
Right.
district and into a district.
Mhm.
So this one would stand alone. This was going to stay in that district. Where the other one, if you're 10% over, you can take a license out, but you can't put it into a district that is more than 25% over. That was the original
Right.
equalization. So this one had a totally different meaning, because this one cannot go anywhere but the 8th.
Okay.
Well, in this case, the 8th, but the district it originated in.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. We do keep making this more and more complicated.
Thank you, Delegate. Any other questions? Well, then, I thank you.
This ends the hearing.
Excuse me?
This ends the hearing is the next phrase.
What is it?
This ends the hearing on.
Okay, thank you. Can I thank you first?
Yes.
Okay, well, I want to thank you, Delegate Eversole and Mr. Maloney, for coming down this morning. This is the hearing on House Bill 1141. How is that?
That's great. I have another bill.
I know that.
Shall I stay here?
I know that.
I'm asking the
Answer
chair
my question.
permission.
I got
Madam
one.
Chair, may I stay here for the next bill?
Now, since we have Delegate Eversole already at the table, why don't you stay there so that we can go to your next bill, which is House Bill 1145 alcoholic beverages waiting period after license. See how I read that well, license denial.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the delegation. House Bill 1145 changes waiting periods for application of an issuance of an alcoholic beverage license at a specific location if the applicant for the license at a location has been previously denied. Current waiting period is 6 months. This would change it to a year waiting period, and if the application is denied a second time, the waiting period becomes 2 years. It's to try to reduce just the repeated application, makes them actually think it through and make some changes before they reapply. This bill was also suggested, I think this is from DCLBA, correct? So the Licensed Beverage Association has asked for this bill, so I'm going to let them expand on it if they want to, with your permission, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Ebersol. Okay, Mr. Maloney.
Okay, this is,
Maloney.
Maloney?
What did I call it? Maloney? Maloney.
all right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, you did, nice job.
This basically, right now, we're following state law 4214. This just makes it very clean. It doesn't matter whether the applicant was denied or the location. If it's denied, it's denied. The first time it's a year, second time it's 2 years. And this was in response to one that has been applied for now 3 times. And we have some folks in the community that weren't happy. We weren't happy because we were putting all the legal bills. But this just basically borrows from some other locals and does the same thing they do. It's very clean. 1 year, 2 years.
Thank you. Questions? All right, Delegate Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the reason is because the liquor board has to deal with this over and it takes legal costs and like.
I think the original intent of this was probably more about community groups.
So community groups have to come and either oppose or support. It takes time, it takes money. And you said legal costs though. So who's flipping the bill for?
It could be a community association, it could be my association, it could be.
So, and a community association can actually hire you or have to hire a lawyer to go in and.
There are times when the community association calls us and basically asks us if we're going to oppose it. And then piggybacks us, and there are other times where they hire their own attorneys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, again, because I'm on the sub and I really like to understand it. So this, you said this can be an applicant or a location that has been previously
The
denied,
application has
right?
been denied. That's
Right.
what determines.
So if the applicant moves from Towson to Catonsville, random choices, then that applicant cannot apply for a new business in Catonsville.
In a different location.
In a different, because that applicant's just banned for some reason because people didn't like the original location, it sounds
Well,
like.
no, that would be,
Okay.
the applicant would be if you were proven to be unfit. You
Ah.
have a felony conviction.
Okay,
you
so
have
that
a history of bad
clears
history
that
of
up a
running
bit
bad
more.
businesses,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. So he was denied, or he or she denied because there were
Yeah,
problems
yeah.
with the applicant, not the location.
Yeah,
And
it
then
could
if
be
the
either or.
location is denied several times because the location just doesn't work for the community, then it works separately.
Both ways.
Thank you for that clarification. That makes a lot more sense.
And banned is for a period of time, not indefinitely.
Thank you, Delegate Guyton. Delegate Mention.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, just, because I'm also on the subcommittee, so I understand. So if I'm applying to try to get a license, I get whatever, at a shopping center, whatever, and I'm denied because ultimately, whatever reason, but not necessarily because of prior, I guess, behavior issue, but more so that it wasn't accepted, I guess, the community, everybody fought it and just wasn't worth it, or we were denied, but are you saying that I couldn't go into another
No,
community?
the same location could not. You couldn't come back to the same.
To the same location? Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, I was confused on that a little bit. Good.
Any other questions? Yes, Delegate.
You said something, Jack, that I want to make sure I'm clear on. You said this piggybacks and is similar to the state.
But the state has a regs that are a little bit different. The state's initial one is 6 months. And they said, they actually spell out if it's either or. This is, if it's denied for whatever reason. It moves from 6 months to a year. And then it's the same if you say on the second time, it's still 3 years.
Okay. So the state is saying the person or the location might be different at the state level. We're just making it the same. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? And I want to thank you, Delegate Eversole, and thank you, Mr. Maloney, for coming down this morning. And now we're going to switch to Delegate Long.
I'm back in charge now.
Okay, because you haven't gotten a chance. So we're going to switch to Delegate Long, who has 4.
She has 4 bills.
And as the chair gets back to his seat, I will turn it over.
You're supposed to say, you have the cons.
Yeah, would you be doing the alcohol bill first?
What's that?
Are you going to do his alcohol bill
If
first?
you would like us to, I can certainly.
That'd
No, we don't have to get up. That's great.
It makes sense.
All right, so we have, hold on, mine's a little bad for me here. Which one is it, 1213?
Yes.
Well, it numerically comes first anyway, so it works out just fine. All right, so now we're gonna have a hearing on House Bill 1213, submitted by Delegate Long. Alcohol beverages, Class A licensed self-checkout machines prohibited. Delegate Long, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Madam Speaker. This all come about, I was actually at a big store and was watching some of the things that they were doing, especially with controlled substance, where they would have to have someone come up to the self-checkout to basically say, to check their ID or whatever. And it was unconscionable what they were doing. Okay, it was like, look at his license, it didn't even look at it. So anyway, we want to make sure that the consumption of alcohol, that it's being sold, that it's under controlled situations because of the outcome of what could possibly happen. Beer is, beer, wine, like getting into the wrong hands could be, cause some real problems. That's why we brought this bill forth. I know they have safety with self-checkout, they could, but we need to have hands-on people that are aware of what's going on. That's why I brought this bill. So they can make sure that the people who are buying alcohol are of age and, basically are of age and they have the proper identification. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very simple bill.
Any testimony?
We would support that. We think it should be a real person checking that ID.
Okay.
It definitely is just another safeguard that we support.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you for the bill. Have we observed this actually happening anywhere?
As far as alcohol, no, but I have seen where, I think it's Sudafed, if you buy Sudafed, that they have to come out and supposed to check your ID and get on lock anyway. Those the safety precautions are not there. And knowing some stores, the way they hire employees, they're not trained. I just want to make sure that it's clear cut that alcohol doesn't get in the wrong hands. And I really do believe self-scanners would actually open that up.
Are there,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also agree that a human person should check out these substances. My first question to you is Sudafed covered in the bill? Because we know that's a
he asked for
problem.
an example because
Okay, I'm just checking, thank you.
Right.
I have not seen this. Jack, do you know if this is actually occurring?
I've heard in other states where they say that they have a mechanism that lights when they go to scan an age-restricted product, a light comes on, and then someone has to come from a checkout.
Right.
So, look, I'll be clear, we didn't know this bill was coming, but we certainly supported this.
Yeah.
I just don't think at any point in time it's a good idea, because if you have that situation, I could see a kid taking a 6-pack of Coke and 2 6-packs of Budweiser and scanning the Coke 3 times and trying to walk out. If you got alcohol.
Yeah, thank you for that. I guess I wonder if there's already some sort of provision for that in law, because and that's something we should check. But if not, this seems like a good way.
Just what Mr. one of the things I can see that they're going through self-checkout, they got 2 cases of beer underneath of the cart. They go through and they're out the door. Or they have a friend that's checking ID that's like, hey, this kid's 16 years old, he's a friend of mine, I'm going to go ahead, get some beer, have some fun. That's what that's why this bill is brought forth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Forbes.
Just for the good of the body, when you check out student offenders, the self-checkout, someone comes over and then they scan your driver's license because that's part of the process. They don't just look at it, they scan it because it has to be done because they keep a record of how much of that, because it was part of the which drug was it that people were making out of Sudafed?
Math.
The math.
It's got a longer name, but
So
we're all
there
the cool
is-
people we call.
It does set off a like that they actually scan your driver's license. So it's not just someone looking at it.
Right. Well, one of the things I agree with you, one of the things is that really a person's ID that's showing the ID. I'm just saying.
That's any ID, right?
What's that?
Is it really the person that's showing the ID?
Is that really the
Okay, but, and the bill's not about Sudafed anyway, but appreciate the information, so I don't think we need to digress into that. I have a quick question, if I may. Are there a lot of liquor stores in Baltimore County right now that have self-checkouts?
No.
So this is preventative, we're not backing away from it, they just have to know now. Nobody's got to take one out, is what I'm saying essentially. Okay, that answers my question. Sure you can.
If it's already, if we can't do it, does this kind of give a signal that we're expecting to change the rule on maybe grocery stores in the future?
Delegate, it doesn't to me.
I'm just, we
As
just
long
need
as
to make sure.
you're not like setting up a,
Yeah,
say, well, you guys changed the law so that we can do this, so.
I would just support it. This, like I said, this was not a bill that we endorsed, we didn't ask for this bill, but we certainly support the concept because we like it where our people have to be trained on the techniques of alcohol management, and most of our people are probably a little stricter because we get the fine.
Right, but I just worry that we're sending a message. Oh, we're expecting you to come and do this, so that, just so you know when it happens.
Well, in case in point, we don't sell liquor at grocery stores which have these machines, so it's irrelevant at this
But
point.
you do have some grandfather,
Right.
and there's some grandfather Rite Aids originally and things of that nature that could, have a scanning device. Some of the grandfather before the prohibition, I would look into that. That's where it would be more apt to be happening.
Would they be required to take theirs out under this law then? Like,
Well, you would just be required to have them come to you.
you
like
couldn't
they
buy the
wouldn't be
alcohol
able
unless you
to-
were checked.
Total one.
Yeah, Delegate Schlager.
Thank you. Does the liquor board have any current regulations on how the alcohol is sold? Do they,
Well,
is it in there?
Different required training, some are on premise, and basically, you are responsible for your employees. If our employees, we get the fine, so we do a lot of training. And I think the biggest thing right now is we're working with the MVA on scanning devices that would access a server that is there, so it'd be more accurate. So they're actually putting some test units in the stores in the next month or so. So you may see us back here next year where we want to use that as a defense, that we've done our job, where we've looked at the same person and we've scanned, but that's, I'm hopeful that testing goes well.
Delegate Phillips.
I'm gonna object, excuse me, Mr. Milani, my classmate. I gotta ask you a more pointed question to Delegate Schlager. Is there anything in Baltimore County ordinances that says you must have someone at point of sale?
Well, we are required to check IDs, so, we have to be there for the point of sale because we're required to check IDs. Again, that doesn't mean someone can't break it, but most of the small guys and small businesses, we don't want to find.
I understand, but if there's a requirement to check IDs, and even if you had a scanner, you have to check the ID.
We must check IDs.
If I might, one of the things that he touched base on, they train their employees about checking IDs and making sure they're doing things right. I just want to make sure that if it ever does come to this point, that alcohol doesn't get in the wrong hands of the wrong people at the wrong time. And we want to make sure if you're eligible to buy, we want to make sure that.
Yeah, and Delia, the other thing is that Beer, wine, and liquor is like 95% of a liquor store sales, as opposed to some other places where it could be 5%. So for us, that's a whole lot of it. We got to be much more diligent.
Delegate Bhandari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to digest the bill. Given the increase in this reliance on self-checkout technology, right? Everywhere people use it to reduce the operational costs or efficiencies, right? So, and don't you think that this will be the burden on the small businesses? That's number one. And number two, would this prohibition discourage business innovation or consumer convenience without clear evidence of public safety concern? So do we have that data?
Delegate Bondari, in all honesty, none of my licensees would even worry about that innovation because our license is that valuable to us that we want to make sure it's done correctly. I mean, sometimes innovation is best when it's a real person looking at the kid. And, you know, sometimes when you ask for the ID, they just leave it on the counter and walk out because they know we got it. So, I mean, we would always, I would rather do it old school and get it right than try to do it on self-checkout. Just from personal, been in the business for 35 years.
So it means that it helps the businesses this way.
I think most of your responsible licensees would be very, very afraid of some type of self-checkout because again, we're ultimately responsible. So sometimes it's just, I mean, I don't want to say I'm old, but old school sometimes is better.
I'm old school, so.
All right. I don't have anybody else on the queue, and so that, I think we'll end the hearing on House Bill 1213. Delegate Long, this is Longapalooza today. So we have House Bill 1295, Baltimore County Transfer Tax Exemption for first-time home buyers. Would you like to describe the bill to us, please?
Yeah. If I may, I think if you know my background and you understand the expertise that I have in real estate and how long I've been in real estate, and see the way the market's changed from the 70s to today, you understand where I'm trying to go. When everyone's went to buy their first house, it's tough to come up with money for the first time. I mean, you know, you're newly married or newly coupled, and you're trying to buy your first house. It's tough to come up with a down payment plus closing costs. This basically would be a net zero, I would think, net zero cost to the county because if people cannot afford to buy a house, they won't be paying transfer taxes. And I just think this is a good business model that we need to look at and possibly even expand on different things that we can. We need to get the first-time home buyers back into the market. Our real estate right now is in a throw that is unreal. And we have to get people back into the market to be able to buy that first house. Hopefully interest rates will come down, job stability will come back, and people's confidence will come back. That's what we need to do. I mean, that's how we build wealth, inherited wealth, you know, is through real estate. And, you know, like I said, I've been in this business for 40 years and I've seen a lot of changes and we need to do whatever we can to get this market moving again. And that's what this bill is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Long. I don't see any witnesses, so Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Isn't it so that there is already a lower transfer tax rate for first-time home buyers?
For the state, yes, it's proportionate for the state. In Baltimore County, believe it or not, if a federal agency sells to a property, to let's say a HUD foreclosure through Baltimore County, if I buy a HUD house, I don't pay no transfer tax. Unless they change the law, I mean, that's the way it's been. But even if it's lower, whatever we can do to help get home buyers back into the market, this market's unreal. I feel bad for anybody trying to buy a house in today's market.
And
Yes, please.
is the county supporting this?
I'm not sure, but our teams could not see why they wouldn't because if the house is
To that end, the county is going to, is listed as a witness.
Oh,
there.
I'm sorry.
Yep, just so you know.
I'm sorry.
So, no need to speculate, we'll have them up here in a
I
second.
hope they do. How's that?
Yeah, I'll accept that. Delegate Metzger.
Yes, Could you kind of explain to me a little bit deeper? You're the professional in real estate. What exactly does the bill do?
The bill would actually exempt transfer taxes from Baltimore County. You pay transfer tax, you pay state, you pay county transfer tax anytime you buy a house. And it would take and eliminate the county part of that. We already give a state credit for first-time home buyers. I think it limits to 25%. But again, this is money that if we're not selling houses, the county's not getting it anyway. So how about let's, see if we can stimulate the market a little bit. I mean, I think it's very modest myself. I would like to do a lot of other things. And it's not because of me being selfish, because I sell real estate.
I think you've answered this question though.
You already with that?
Yeah. Doug Messer, do you have another question?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, Delegate Mandari.
Thank you, Delegate Long. I know the intent of this bill is to provide temporary relief to homeowners. So how does this bill address the potential negative impacts on our county's revenue for essential public services, schools, public safety, and infrastructure? Would freezing assessment for 2 years, like as Bill says, disproportionately benefit some homeowners while shifting the burden to other taxpayers?
The whole premises of this bill is that if people are not buying houses, they're not paying this tax anyway. So it's not affecting any other taxpayers. What this would do would actually, like I said, I want to stimulate people getting back into the market. People own homes, it stimulates the economy. I mean, real estate is the backbone of the engine of this country. And, we don't want to put a burden on anybody, but again, if no one's buying a house, you're not putting any additional burdens on
Well, I think Delegate Mandari's question is to the fiscal impact. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any data on the fiscal impact that's what it provided for the county?
I would say that from my professional opinion, I think it would be beneficial to the county because now we're going to start getting homeowners back into the county. Homeowners take better care of the property. It's just a multitude of things. We need to do whatever we can to get these first-time home buyers back in. It's like small fish getting a big fish, and this way the market will start moving again. We got to do something because it's stagnant.
Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Delegate, I understand you're saying that sales of first-time home buyers are low, but do you know how many on average how many transactions there have been in the past couple of years?
No, I don't, but I'll tell you what I'll be more glad to do. I'd be more glad to get that information to you back here. I actually hired someone to do data research, so we'll be more glad to get that information.
Great.
When you get that, would you please send it to John so that he can share with the entire delegation?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Your question is that, Delegate Stein, is that finished off?
Yes.
Great. Anybody else with a question at this point? All right, so we do have Ms. Carr listed to testify. I think she's in opposition, so Delegate Long, you can step away because people who are in favor and in opposition at the same
I
time.
can sit here if you like to, do I need to get up? Shouldn't be done all one time. Saves energy.
You can take a seat right there in the front row if you want. All right.
Yeah, I want to do that. Might be easy.
Yeah, Ms. Carr, thank you.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of our wonderful delegation. Amanda Carr from Baltimore County, representing the administration. On House Bill 1295, Baltimore County is opposed. I did ask our Office of Budget and Finance to pull what the exact fiscal impact would be. They are unsure, but just for an example, in transfer tax in the past year, we got $70 million. So
repeat that number.
70 million.
Okay, I want to make sure it's 70 and not
Yes.
7. Thank you.
Yes. So there would be impact to this bill, we believe. I think generally Baltimore County has tried not to come out and oppose a lot of the legislation coming before your body because we understand that each one of you are bringing legislation to help our shared residents and our shared constituents. The briefing this morning was very timely. I think we all heard what the direct impact to Baltimore County is. Baltimore County has been very judicious in our comments about the state budget because we understand everyone is taking a hit this year. We are feeling it in Baltimore County. We are prepared for the cost transfers, though we prefer not to have them. But understand there are a lot of hard decisions. We would ask on legislation like this, we at least pause and let our economy take a little bit of a rebound before we explore some of these types of legislations.
Thank you. Anyone with questions? Okay, seeing none, we have no one else testifying on this bill. This concludes the hearing on House Bill 1285. Now we'll move to House Bill 1295. This is titled transfer, 1295, also transfer tax exemption. No, I might have read the wrong title to the other one, didn't I? I was one title off on that one. So let's just call it House Bill 1295 and you can describe it and I'll try not to get balled up in which one I'm reading out loud. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so I said 1295 and we did 1295. My apologies. Now I have to go backwards to 1285. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're on 1285 property tax, homeowners property tax credit. Sorry, Delegate Long. Thank you for being able to pivot one bill ahead. I really appreciate your flexibility.
Trying to be organized here.
You are.
I'm sure that you've heard this bill several times. We had a lot of problems with our seniors being able to maintain their houses. This just raised the the tax credit very minimal, and it's actually targeted to our senior set of seniors. The rate has not been changed, I believe, since 2006 when this first came out, the tax credit. And I know we've had it out several times since then. And, we need to make sure their homeowners stay safe in their house and they can afford to pay their taxes. That's what this bill is about, just adjusting the brackets. Like I said, the rates have not been changed since 2006, I believe.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the bill from the delegation? Okay, seeing none, we do have, again, Amanda Carr is going to come forward and he'll sign opposition to the bill. You have the floor.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members, delegation. Amanda Carr for Baltimore County. I do have the numbers on this bill. On House Bill 1285, this bill increases the cap on income from $60,000 to $72,000 to become eligible for the tax credit. It alters the percentages of income to calculate the credit. The maximum local credit amount per recipient increases from $160 to $700. This would result in a decrease in revenues. Our Office of Budget and Finance estimates it will be approximately 4.6 million in decrease annually. Further, the language in the bill, further, the county must reimburse SSTAT for reasonable costs to administer the program. That's an additional and untold value.
Thank you. Yes, Delegate Carr.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Would it be true that it wouldn't matter what the age, what the income level of the senior, they would qualify for it? So if you're a senior making $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, you still get to qualify for this?
I do not believe so, not in this bill.
Not in this bill, okay. Good.
Other questions on the bill? All right, thank you for your testimony. That, we have no other witnesses and no other questions, so that, now let's get the number right. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1285. And our final bill of the day will be House Bill 1330, Residential Real Property Moratorium on Assessment Increases and Review of Assessment Practices and Methodology. Delegate Long, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. This is a very important bill because as everyone here knows that property taxes keep going up, up, and up. And a lot of times they're based our assessed value on sales. The problem is we don't have a lot of sales to be able to base property values on. That being said, it's not unusual for a contract to come in on a house and you have come in $10,000, $20,000 over value. Well, assessment uses that to reassess values every 3 years to be able to raise its property tax assessment. And I don't really believe it's not a real number, if you ask me. Just to give you an example, we heard a bill in delegation, I'm sure Delegate Ebersol remembers this. It was about affordable housing. How the assessment was wrong for assessed values for lower income housing. And they were talking about spending $100,000. I don't know what the money was to be able to fix the problem. The whole problem with this market, again, is there's no comparable sales. And I do believe that, you know, they just keep raising the property assessments, and the county keeps raising the taxes. People are at their wits' end. I mean, between inflation, insurance, what now? Baltimore City's getting ready to raise water and sewer charges again. You know, things are bad. And just to give you an indication, I don't know if anyone's familiar how a canary in a coal mine is. But years ago, when the coal miners went in, they would take the canary in with them to let them know if there was something going on. We have a canary in the mine to deal with property taxes. And that is, hold on for a minute. We did some research, a lot of research on it. A good indication that we're getting to some bad water is loan modifications. Loan modifications have went up since 2003, 150%. Is everyone familiar with what happens with a loan modification? You get behind on your payments, and you go back into the bank and they renegotiate. That's a great indication of what this market's about ready to do. I don't want to see it happen. I was here when the housing crash of 2008 or whatever it was. It was not good. And you know, you have people work hard all their life to be able to buy a house. And the last thing the county or the state or anybody should be doing is to hinder them from continuing owning their property. I understand we have to pay for things, but I think it's about time that we look closer at how our assessed values are put in place, and we need to control our spending. It's that simple. I mean, homeowners have to, so why shouldn't the county and the state? And that's what this bill is about. I think we really need to take oversight of what's going on with this property tax assessment process.
Thank you, Delegate. Questions? Delegate Carter.
Thank you very much. I actually find this bill very interesting, but wouldn't it be a better way to do it because I'm not sure how you assess houses except using comparables. I mean, I guess you could come up with a formula, but I would imagine that would be just as inconsistent based on, you know, wealth of a neighborhood or other kinds of, or construction companies and how much they spend. So it would seem like the way to do it would be to maybe try and tweak the homestead tax credit. It could still cost the county money to do it that way, but at least there's consistency in that maybe instead of being able to go up 5% a year, whatever it is.
That's 4%, yeah.
4%, or you can maybe go up 3% or 2%, like just make it so that first time that assessment you get screwed on that assessment when the first time you come in, because they can assess it, you know, when a new buyer comes in.
Right.
But then after that, after the homestead kicks in, it doesn't go up, basically. That might be the better way of doing it.
I would have no objections to that if we could pass that, if we could raise or lower the assessment, lower the constant, I'm sorry, what you're talking about.
The rate increase based on the homestead.
One of the things that is, if you look at it, being in the business and being so close to it, knowing how appraisal works, SDAT has stepped outside their boundaries. And they have really stretched themselves to go outside of what regular parameters are because of the lack of sales. And that's why I feel a lot of these assessments are actually, they're bogus. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to put it.
Mr. Chair.
Any question answered? Yes.
Last question. Again, the same question. What would be the fiscal impact to our county?
I'm sure it's going to be some. I don't know what the actual number is, but the bottom line is, don't we want to protect our homeowners now instead of having a bunch of houses foreclosed on?
So again, you're unclear. The
I'm unclear, yes.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for the sponsor? All right, we also have two people who would either here to answer questions or to testify. I know that the county's here in opposition. Also, we have an old friend from the State Department, from the county government, but now he works for the SDAT. If you've got a seat to Amanda Carr, and I don't know if you want to come forward and sit also, you're welcome to.
Certainly happy to.
Thanks. All right.
Good morning, Chair.
Ms. Carr, you're up.
Thank you, Amanda Carr from Baltimore County. I brought with me from State Department of Assessment and Taxation that this bill seems to deal with multiple agencies. Josh Greenberg, Director of Legislative Affairs.
Thanks, everybody. Just to be clear, the department does not have a position on this bill at this time, but I'm definitely happy to answer any questions about our assessment procedures, the kind of information that's out there already, so that you can sort of evaluate how we do it, because a lot of what we do is public information, so you can gauge how the department does its job.
Do you have any further testimony then?
Yeah, just very briefly, House Bill 1330 freezes assessment increases for nearly all properties and requires SDOT to undergo a study of their assessment practices. This would have a tremendous impact on Baltimore County, particularly in our FY 2027 revenues. Our Office of Budget and Finance has estimated it will be over 70 million in impact per year.
I have a handful of questions. Delegate Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there are two parts of this bill. One is the moratorium on assessment increases. The other is a study. Does Baltimore County have issues with the study, or are we doing a study?
Baltimore County would not.
Thank you. So I hand over Delegate Mangino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Hart, for being here. And I understand this bill, and I really appreciate what Delegate Long is trying to do here, and I agree with them. And I'll say that there are very complicated formulas, obviously, and this is a very, very complicated issue, because the reality is, and the human part of this is so real that the taxes are just crushing, especially middle-class homeowners. I have a friend in Sparks that, long story short, he bought this house. He's about in his early 40s, 2 kids, a wife, and he's almost being forced out of his home that he bought maybe 10 or 12 years ago because the property taxes over the last 12 years, whatever, haven't gotten so high. So my question, obviously that's a comment there. I understand this is complicated. I understand it's going to hurt the county, but where is this issue? And maybe this is something you would have to take back to the county executive, or maybe the previous county executive and others on their radar, so to speak, because this issue is real. I'm not saying that there's a perfect fix, but the property tax cost to our homeowners in Baltimore County is really making some middle-class people, I see all the time in emails on this very issue, especially the increase that just happened. So where is it kind of on your radar? And is there discussions about, is there anything that can be done?
I'm sure there are discussions. I will go back and talk with senior leadership and see what we could engage on with you all. I will note, like your colleague mentioned, this is really tied to the value of the property, which is, we don't cap how much you can sell your home for. It's what someone's willing to pay for it. So yes, it is a complicated issue. And I think it'll be a challenge to address, but I think we all would be willing to have that conversation.
Yeah, thank you. To Delegate Cardin makes me ideas. I get a lot of emails and social media on this issue. So just wanted to make sure I was on the record saying it's very important, whether or not it's this fix or not. But thank you very much, and I appreciate you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the hearing on House Bill. Let's see, I can probably find the number here somewhere.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. 13, thank you, 1330, appreciate your time. We're gonna be out here in just a second. I have a few quick announcements. We'll go virtual again next week, unless you all love it so much that we have to force them to come back. Our plan is to go off, but we'll come back on the 28th into this room and give it another round. I'm gonna be just listening to you guys what you kind of like and what you don't like on that. We have scheduled a food bank volunteer day on March the 3rd, which is a Monday. Many of us are kind of working our way to Annapolis at 9 a.m. We're invited to come to the food bank and either help them sort food, or if you're feeling particularly like getting your hands a little dirty, you can also go and cook. Okay, apparently you can prepare food. So some of you have signed up, but I encourage more of you to. I think it's a good thing for us to say. Yes. March 3rd, Monday, March 3rd. And it's right on your way. It's right on Hollands Ferry Road, exit 9. The last exit in Baltimore County is come around the Beltway. Also, not in 44A, but in 44B, the food bank actually sits. I think that is everything I have today. Anybody else for the good of the order? Yes, Madam Vice Chair.
Also on Monday mornings, for those of you who are particularly interested in the cuts in our schools, every Monday, I go to a school in Baltimore County, sometimes 2 schools, to talk to folks with the supervisors, to talk about all of those areas that are being cut, particularly special education, community centers, et cetera. And the system has been very good about sending out people to talk about the direct impact on those particular schools. So right now I'm on the west side, but if anyone from the east side would like to do that, we can expand it. And I'm doing it through May. So even if you can't do it during the session, know that I will be doing it still afterwards. Because I think it's important for us to know what's really going on.
Thank you, Del. That's a good one. And by the way, I'm a little geographically insensitive. People come from the east side might be coming through a tunnel and be a little south, but you're very close. Okay, you can still make it there. You know, I understand you might not be coming down the Beltway from the top. So with the loss of the bridge, it's less likely that you'll be sneaking up from the bottom there. Anybody else for the good of the order? Hey, thank you all. This was a nice try, folks. We're adjourned. We have some news about the passing of a former delegate. If you'd like to come up, we'll tell you who it is. I'll just say quickly, Frank Turner has passed away.
Oh.
I know. Yeah. Not off the record, but I wanted y'all to know. Yeah. It was Howard.
Any problems?
No, he did.